You know, over the course of the last 6 years, I've responded to that question in different forms, whether it's on the dais, whether it's, you know, in groups like this, whether it's on somebody's doorstep as I've knocked on doors in campaign. Listen, today, you know, we're probably going to have to agree to disagree on where we are on this particular issue, but what I'd like to do is before, you know, I get too far into it is maybe help you, you know, this might help you understand a little bit of where I'm coming from on the issue, because you made, as part of your first, you know, as part of your first statement was, you know, I can understand why Duncan and those guys don't support it, but you know, hey, you know, you grew up poor, you know, you grew up as a minority, why, you know, why don't you, you know, see it the way I see it? You know, you're right. You know, as I mentioned, I did grow up in a home that, you know, wasn't privileged with money, but privileged with a lot of other things.
Intelligence.
Yeah. But I also grew up in a home where my father was a police officer, a reserve police officer. My mother's investigator for the district attorney's office. My oldest uncle on my father's side just retired from Fresno PD. And I can give you a whole list of family members that are in law enforcement and serve in law enforcement. So what I can tell you is, growing up, I got to see both sides. You know, I got to see some of that racial profiling, and I saw some of my friends go through that. You know, when we left our neighborhood in Southeast Fresno, sure, I saw it. But when I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk to people that I trust, you know, people like my family that are in law enforcement, you know, out there serving day in and day out, and just to kind of hear their perspective, you know, I heard a couple different things. I mean, number one, they'd say, yeah, sure, every organization has bad apples, you know, and nobody's immune to that, you know. But
these bad apples have tons.
Sure, but the second thing that they would tell you, and I think what other folks in law enforcement will tell you, is that there's got to be a balance or a happy medium when we talk about addressing this issue. And I'll never forget, a couple of years ago, the governor appointed me to a commission that oversees police training statewide.
That's the post training?
Post, yeah. And so this issue came up, independent oversight came up, and it was more of an informal setting. And so I was asking a lot of questions, and we were in Riverside at their training center. They said, okay, Henry, you know what? We're going to put you through a simulation of things that happen out there on the street, and we're going to let you make a decision. And at the end of the day, we're going to, you know, we'll find out if you made the right decision. So of course they gave me, you know, fake gun in a holster, right? They have the screen, the simulator, and this whole scenario plays out. You know, this guy, you know, his wife, domestic violence, this whole thing's happening. There's a lot going on, and it's real. I mean, there are actors playing this thing, and the whole thing's going on. You know, the whole time there's yelling. I mean, it's just the whole situation's chaotic. I ended up pulling out my gun, and you know, I was like, okay, what do I do? And they're just, and you know, we're going through this process. And at the end of the day, I didn't fire, but I was dead. You know, they showed, oh, by the way, this guy coming from the side of you just stabbed you or just hit you with a bat. And so for me, it was just kind of an experience that said, okay, you know, these are, you know, we have our men and women as police officers that have to make decisions like this. Sometimes it's the right decision, sometimes it's not. The key is when we talk about an issue like an independent police auditor, is that we have to go into the discussion where both sides truly lay it on the table, what their concerns are. You know, no, there can't be any hiding behind any political rhetoric or anger. I mean, I hear the frustration in your voice. You know, we can't go into negotiations like that. I mean, we truly need to sit down and as a community say, okay, hey, you know what, here are our problems. And what you need to do, and you know, they have to keep their ears open, they have to be open-minded and truly listen to that. Just like you will have to listen to them when they say, okay, well, here are the potential challenges that we see in doing our job in making the split-second decisions that we have to make, and here's how we see the IPA and how it will affect us to do that. I mean, you have to be able to listen to that, be honest, and then at the end of the day say, okay, we know what each other's concerns are, now where's the happy medium? You know, where's that discussion? Now that's going to be a very long discussion, not a year long, but I mean, it's going to be, you know, a very intense conversation. You know, it's going to be a very hard conversation because both sides are going to have to go into that conversation understanding that you're not going to get everything you want, but you know, we might get closer, you know, to something that the community can accept, because I will find it extremely disingenuous if my opponent were to say, oh yeah, I support police oversight, knowing that she will not have, you know, the votes on the city council to get it done. That's not fair to you. that's not fair to the community to make a promise when you know that somebody else is gonna stop it for you.
But my question is, feeling that way, knowing that it's gonna take a long time, knowing that it's gonna take give and take discussion, why haven't you done it? Why haven't you initiated it? Even up until Tuesday?
Because
Now
what-
that you're running for mayor and you've got the support of the Police Officers Association, you know, for the first time, you're coming out and saying this. And you don't have to wait until you're mayor.
Sure.
It
well,
can happen
well,
tomorrow.
let me tell you,
You
over the
can,
last 6 years.
you can contact the Police Officers Association
Sure.
and start the process.
Let-
We don't have to wait till January.
Let me tell you, I mean, my priorities over the last 6 years have been very clear. You know, when I ran for city council, I knew what I wanted to do once I got into council. And, you know, I mean, instead of listing all those priorities, you know, I'll be honest with you. You know, the IPA wasn't on the top of my list. You know, for me, it was renewable energy, it was downtown, it was transportation. I mean, it was all these other things that I saw a need for us to address. Now, when I'm telling you that if, you know, if I'm elected as your next mayor, I'm willing to invest the time and the energy to bring both sides of the table together on that issue to see if we can't hammer something out. You know, and that's where I am today.